for me, was a big thing. Where's the market? What's the problem? That huge problem of providing a market. How are you solving that? Then he talks about the $200 million that the buffer stock company is going to be giving, right, to purchase the grains in the system. But that will deal with the current crisis. But then you look at the bigger picture, which is the big push, the roads. And then when he was talking about the Kumasi-Accra Expressway, he talks about the position of some of the interchanges in areas where they know they have to evacuate farm produce to facilitate this movement to the market centers. That was ticking that box also. That for me was key. I'm looking forward to hearing the farmers speak to this, because currently it's a problem. But there's something else he said today about creating the Agric Fund, I believe he says. It was clear to me that Agric was going to be a priority. I was fascinated that he allocated $6.9 billion to the oil palm finance window, which is fascinating. That's a lot of money. It is. He's banking a lot on the success of this initiative.
It is, because, Evans, when I talked about, I know that over the weekend the minister was in Takrady, but he went through my hometown of Mpoho to Benso, where you have the Benso oil palm plantation, and so you can understand why he's saying the things he's saying. But you see that my challenge with this whole food glut thing, I ask a very simple question. Do we have abundance of food, and so people are no longer buying? Or is a case of food going bad at the farm gate because they may not be able to transport it? Have we in this country overproduced food?
The farmers say they haven't overproduced. In fact,
that's the problem. That's the problem. So that's what I'm getting to. Because we're actually creating the impression all of a sudden that we've overproduced. We have not. You see, one of the things we haven't spoken about a lot is that the moment your currency appreciates, it also means that imports could be cheaper. In fact, imports become cheaper. So if your country's, the local population cannot match up price-wise, they would struggle. So you ask a simple question. Today, let's do the analysis. Is it better to say import rice into the country than producing it locally? Is it better to bring in maize than producing locally?
One of the days we engaged, sorry to cut you, but one of the days we engaged the farmers, particularly the rice farmers, they mentioned that, of course, they will not be able to meet the entire demand of the country. And so quite a manageable importation of the rice is quite accepted. In fact, they want that a regulation like the way they used to regulate the soybeans industry, if such an ally at least is provided to regulate the grain market as well, it will help them.
So I hear the finance minister talking about how secondary schools should use local produce. This was all part of even as far back as the school feeding program and all of that, when the World Food Program was assisting us, because government is the biggest, purchaser in our part of the world. So that's why I say that, look, it's not enough saying, oh, there's a food glut. But the reason I am happy is that we're beginning to realize that. So once we're beginning to realize that, we're talking about the construction of roads to farming areas, okay? So what that would mean is that now it becomes easier to transport. The last time we had a conversation right here in the studios, what we talked about was that the market queens, for instance, the transportation, the cost of transporting food from the farm to the market centers was itself a problem. So people will transport these products and then charge you more for it. But the other point also is that if you are not able to deal with the importation of food into your country, that's where you'd have a problem. So it's important, for instance, that today we're saying, let the schools buy them. But also, have we thought about the fact that all state programs could use locally, could source foods locally? It's a nice way of going about it. And so we say, look, anytime we have any program, any person who's supplying government programs should show that they actually procured food locally. The Roads and Highways Minister, Kwame Agboja, has talked about the fact that if you are going to do any government product, you should show, for instance, where you got your raw materials from. And he was going to use that as a way of ensuring that they're even able to reduce the cost and all of that. So for me, this whole conversation about, food glut, one of the things you must realize is that we've not overproduced. What we have done is that we have still done the same thing that we talked about. What are the problems of agriculture? What should we do? Mechanization. As far back as 2010, I was doing an analysis of 2008, 2009, 2010 budget, and I saw the same thing: irrigation of Accra Plains, mechanization of agriculture. It's become like, a total recall for us every time we're talking about agriculture. But that's not it for me. I mean, I am happy that...
And because you are still talking about food, there was also this announcement of a no-brainer policy that I've struggled to see why we haven't done it before, something that was talked about yesterday again, which is that why don't you make it mandatory for our kids to be fed with locally produced rice and etc.
And institutions as well purchase the locally produced grains.
He announced in the budget, and I want to quote him, that the president has also directed all schools from basic to secondary to purchase rice, maize, chicken, eggs produced in Ghana, with emphasis on only. And that's my emphasis. But the only is important because it tells you you cannot mix it. You cannot say 50-50 or 70-30 only. In other words, 100% of what our children in school will be consuming, right from the basic to secondary.
The market is a bit wider than that, though.
Yeah, of course, but at least there's a guaranteed market. That's a huge market.
No, you see, I mean, as I was saying earlier, that's a good policy. It's a huge market. But this is the other thing. Why is it that here we are today complaining about food getting rotten on the in the farm and all of that? Technology is so advanced that today you can actually, look, people dehydrate vegetables, tomatoes, pepper, onions, all of that. You can do that and store them. When you are ready to use, then you use them. Okay, so that's not a problem. I am happy. I think that the minister is realistic when it comes to his GDP targets. Even though because we're doing say we're doing around 6%, the general expectation would be that you raise it. But he knows what he's doing. I'm sure that we would exceed that particular target. But I do not, in God's name, understand why we are still paying teacher trainee allowance. I don't understand. I do not understand why we're paying teachers and nurses when today the conversation is that we have overproduced nurses in this country. Why are we still paying them allowances? Those funds, over 200 million Ghana cedis, could go into supporting other critical sectors of the Ghanaian economy. And the earlier we stopped that, the better. I also don't understand. Look, if people cannot afford to, those who need to be assisted to pay BEC registration should be assisted. If Evans Mensah is sending his child to school, it cannot be the case that he cannot pay for that child's BEC registration. That's something the government doesn't have to take care of. Sometimes we do these things. I've seen the government, I heard him talk about the Nkokon Kitinkiti project, for instance. It's part of the reason we've been asking for all the policy documents, so we can all study it too. When I read the story this morning in the Daily Graphic, it talked about the fact that it was targeting some 60,000 households and some 50 anchor farmers with 80,000 birds, which would translate into some 3 million birds for the anchor farmers and all of that. But I asked this question: what is our total consumption of, say, poultry, for instance? You're looking at 460,000 metric tons.
460,000
metric tons. And so you're looking at, if you want to actually produce birds to actually feed the country Ghana, and with birds weighing, say, 2.5 kg, you're looking at a total of 184 million, okay, annually. 184 million annually. Now, if I supply you 3 million birds, for instance, there's a percentage that should be allocated to mortalities, for instance, because you wouldn't have all the birds. Okay, so I say, while this is a good policy, I think that it will be a better policy if we actually focus more on helping those who currently are in the industry. Helping them does not necessarily mean that supplying them with birds. Engage them. What are their problems? If it is feed, help them to get feeds at cheaper prices. Okay, so we're talking about feed, for instance. We know that you need a lot of maize for poultry and all of that. How many metric tons of maize must we produce over the period to be able to help these farmers? What must we do differently? These are conversations I want us to have. It's not just, saying we're giving them birds. Because if you give them birds and at the end of the day, it actually costs more, what would happen is that they would not be able to compete. And what we have forgotten is that as our currency appreciates, it makes it cheaper to also import into this country. And the businessman was not born to only come and deal in local produce or products. His job is to make profit. So if he thinks he's going to make profit by importing, unless you probably impose taxes on it, which would then mean that he may not be able to import, and so the local ones would be cheaper.
You have just introduced the term taxes. Let's really talk about the tax reforms, which was a major area. All of the country have been waiting. That indeed, will there be that reformation when it comes to tax, particularly even the VAT? So the finance minister said that with all the reforms, particularly out of the VAT, they're likely to rake in nearly 6 billion Ghana cedis, but specifically 5.7 billion Ghana cedis. My question really is, most of the taxes that were abolished in the 2025 budget when he read, which we're still enjoying today, one of the key concerns would be that would they really be able to mobilize revenue? Many said there will be some revenue shortfalls. Today, the VAT has also been reformed, and you will want to break it down for us, Evans. The amount that he says we're likely to rake in, 5.7 billion Ghana cedis, before Winston goes into the nuances. How do we even measure? Are we able to rake in some good revenue?
Well, briefly, I think that, what he's only told you is that if these tax policies were still there, you'd have paid them. And this was the expected revenue to the government. And so because you're not paying them, it is savings to you, as in us. Okay? So if you're expecting, say, about 3 billion from COVID-19 levy, and it's been scrapped now, what it means is that you're not going to pay them. And once you're not paying them, it's savings to you. So it adds up to your disposable income. Okay? So that's simply that point. When you're asked the question, whether we're able to raise revenue. Now, if I look at the first to third quarter, provisional R10, I see that there's a shortfall of about some 9 billion Ghana cedis. However, last week, I was actually at a program where I heard the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority indicate that from January to October, they have currently exceeded target by some 70 million Ghana cedis, which means that things may have turned around somewhere in October. Let's just wait and see. The minister is very confident to be able to meet the target when it comes to domestic revenue or even tax revenue target. But this is it. The VAT, prior to, we still have the current system, but what we're actually doing was that you had the 2.5% NHIL, 2.5% Get Fund levy. Now, what you did was to add those, to the total cost before you slash the VAT rate on it. So, for instance, if I bought a product of, say, 100 Ghana cedis, I'd add 5 Ghana cedis, 5%, so that becomes 105, and then I slash the 15% on it. What they have done now is to make it straight. So instead of doing 5% before you slash the 15%, that actually increased by about more than 1% to about a percentage point. Today, that is no longer there, and that in itself also would bring you some savings.
Stay with me. Evans, yours will stay with me. I'm going to Parliament. Kweku Asante is on phone. Kweku, explain to us what's happening in Parliament now.
Well, usually when the presentation concludes, both sides will usually sing. It's a thing with ceremonial days. But today, I think it went a bit beyond control, and that is why we've seen that the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagwin, has left the chamber. He has left his seat. The Speaker would never usually leave the chamber when the House still is in session without anyone occupying the chair. Either he will leave and hand over to one of his deputies, or the House will stand on suspension. But this time around, Parliament is still in session, the mace is still standing upright, but the Speaker has left. But because both sides were trying to outdo each other in terms of their noise and the songs and the chants, but they did go a bit overboard with the majority in particular singing a lot of songs. And anytime the minority tried to sing in, they also came in and tried to drown them out. That led to some back and forth. And so this is the longest of the chanting and singing that we've seen when it comes to ceremonial days. Usually it takes 1 or 2, 3 minutes, and that is done. The leadership on both sides will give brief comments, and the House will stand adjourned. But that didn't happen. The singing and chanting went on for more than 10 minutes. It was pretty historic in the negativity of it all. And Alban Bagwin, they started banging the table and all of that, trying to control the proceedings. Did not get the buy-in of members on that. And so he walked off and went to his lobby. Now the chamber has quieted. As you can see, there's a lot of calm. MPs are in their seats, talking to each other and all that. The noise has ceased, which would mean that if the Speaker of Parliament is reminded, he will come back. I've seen the classic Parliament. He came, he spoke to both leaders for a while, and then he also went in there. He's going to be speaking to the Speaker. And so we expect the Speaker of Parliament to come in. When he comes, the natural order of proceeding is to give the minority leader first an opportunity to speak on about it. Alexander Afenyo is singing some ever song to the microphone now, but another person has just put on their mic as well, so we cannot hear him. But when the Speaker comes and he is so minded, he will give the opportunity to the minority leader. The majority leader will also speak. Then the House will stand adjourned. So that is the situation on the floor as we speak.
Right. Thank you so much, Kuku. Must be really interested in parliaments, as you're seeing on your screens now. But back in studio here, you have just been giving some clarity on this VAT reform.
Yes.
One of the things that has my attention is the VAT registration threshold as well. 200,000 Ghana cedis to 750,000 Ghana cedis. Good or bad for small businesses, Evans?
Yeah, I mean, yesterday, speaking to the Guta president, he was looking at this as fundamentally good for business, for himself and others. His challenge was if you're doing a flat rate, and how are you going to determine the threshold? I don't know whether there's clarity on that. That threshold is going to be a challenge for him and his business, because everybody else, the threshold simply means, you can explain, that you sort of get some reprieve. If you're at that threshold.
Yes. So before you qualify, for instance, to charge VAT, your total earnings should be at a certain rate. So if currently it's at 200,000, so any business that's a turnover is 200,000 annually would qualify to charge VAT. However, he's increasing that to 750,000. So what that would mean is that if you're a small business growing up, and sometimes the feeling is that if you're charging VAT, people would move away from you. That would actually enable you to actually then get more people to come in because they don't get to pay that. But that's where the challenge also comes in, because there are some people who have actually said, and even members of Guta have actually talked about the fact that, let's say MFR, Evans, and me and I, we do this, we sell the same thing, but maybe I am bigger, so I have to charge VAT. You're smaller, you don't have to charge VAT. She's also smaller, she doesn't have to charge VAT. So while I charge VAT, people would not come to me. So they feel that sometimes within a certain space, all people should, everybody should charge VAT so that it doesn't, hurt somebody's business.
Which was his position yesterday, that this threshold should not be there at all, that everybody must charge VAT. But the government wants to protect small businesses. And it's right, nobody wants to pay tax. And if your turnover is just 200,000, which is what it was until today, once it's passed, and you're charging it, and you're that small, you're going to compete with the other shop next to you whose turnover, for example, is 5 million, they've already grown and built a customer base that they can thrive on, which is the rationale behind this threshold change. I see the speaker is walking back to his
to his seat. We'll see how all of that will pan out. Whether it will be business as usual, whether the minority will get to make some comments.
But another thing on this tax matter, the criticism that he got in March, but also subsequently in the mid-year budget review with the COVID-19 levy. And I remember, we doing analysis and making the point that this is something they said when they were in opposition, that this is one of the first things to scrap is the COVID-19 levy. And then he got a chance to do it in March and didn't do it. And then MPP said, but they're going to benefit from it. He's actually reaped a significant, revenues from this. He promised, to be fair to him, to say that
you will stay with me. I will take them back to Parliament.
Speaker is addressing. He's done
I've always insisted that it was just a smart way to rake in some revenue. It was very simple if he wanted to, abolish that in March. He could have done same as he did to e-levy. But hey,
politics or policy? Let's go to Parliament. We'll come back and continue that.
Whenever the budget statement and economic policy of the government for the year ending is presented by the minister responsible for finance on behalf of the president, the commentary on it shall stand adjourned for not less than 3 days. 4, the part of the budget statement and economic policy of the government and the heads of estimates that relate to the ministries, departments, agencies, parliaments, the judiciary, and other independent constitutional bodies shall stand committed to the relevant committees that have responsibility for the subject matter, and each committee shall consider the relevant part of the budget, and the head of estimates committed to that committee, and report to the House within a time as the business committee may determine. 5, any other part of the budget statement and economic policy of the government that relates to revenue and expenditure shall stand committed to the Finance Committee, which shall consider and report to the House within a time as the Business Committee may determine. Honorable members, I so direct, as clearly detailed out in the standing orders, that these estimates be so taken over by the relevant committees for consideration and report at a time and a date that is determined by the Business Committee. I so direct. Honorable members, before I move on, let me recognize the presence of some dignitaries that have come to support us to receive the budget statement from His Excellency the President through the Minister for Finance. And so I acknowledge His Excellency Dr. Ekospio Gabra, I've just been informed that the chairman of the National Democratic Congress, Honorable Johnson Asedu Nketia, we also have a former Minister for Energy, Honorable Boache Ajakun, present, and the former Minister for Finance, now advisor on the economy at the Office of the President, Honorable Sef Tekwe, is also present. We have Alhaji Haruna Mohammed, Deputy General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party. Let me also acknowledge the leadership of the Ministry of Finance. We have the Chief Director of the Ministry of Finance, Mr. Patrick Nimo. Yes, he's seated over there. We have the Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Mr. Johnson Esiema. We have the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Mr. Anthony Kwasi Sarpong. We have a Commissioner also from the GRA, SSD, Dr. Adumaku Mensah. We have Commissioner GRA, DTRD, Brigadier General Glover Ashong Annan. And we have the Controller and Accountant General, Mr. Kwasi Ajay. We have so many other supporting staff coordinating directors and directors, they are all available to support the minister. On your behalf, I want to thank them for their patience and all what they've done to support the minister to present such a statement within 2 hours. Honorable members, as I am not good as a conductor, when it came to the time of the chorus, I had to advise myself because a few years ago, the Veterans Association invited me to their function at the usual place. The Veterans Association, you know where they are housed. And I was invited to conduct a singing band there. It was very abysmal. So I didn't want to disappoint myself in the public. And so when you decided to reconstitute Parliament into orchestra, I decided to advise myself, and that is why I silently sneaked out. Honorable members, I will allow your leaders to say a word before I bring the minister to present some papers. I think this is the proper time for the two leaders, the minority leader and the majority leader, to have a say before we move to the order paper to give opportunity to the minister to present the papers. But I think now you have all stretched your limbs, you have refreshed yourselves, and you are ready for a long haul. And so I'm ready for you this night. Yes, minority leader.
Mr. Speaker, in March this year, when the finance minister started his lamentation, we were minded to forgive him because he was new on the job. Today, after several months on the job, he came to repeat the same lamentation, part 2 of his lamentation. Mr. Speaker, the minister may be minded to see the empty public gallery. The business community decided to abandon him. All these empty chairs, this is not what we've known in the past. Mr. Speaker, the minister attempted to provide some figures. He gave a tall list of allocations. What he failed to add, that in the 2025 budget that he brought to this house, we had Director of Operations at the Jubilee House, at the presidency, who publicly said every month the presidency gives 20,000 Ghana cedi to each constituency. A total 66 million. Where did they get that money from? Mr. Mustafa Bandi, the Deputy General Secretary of NDC and Director of Operations at the presidency, he publicly said that every month the presidency gives 20,000 cedis to each constituency. The Minister of Finance has not accounted for this. How that money is given, time will tell. Mr. Speaker, Parliament, the minister has failed to consider the work of Parliament. He provides a paltry sum to Parliament when Parliament is the only body that does oversight. Parliament is an important organ of state. When the minister himself is a minister, is a member of Parliament, and fails to recognize the Parliament and its work, and you say we should hail you. Look at the ministers and their faces. Mr. Speaker, 2025, he should tell us the releases he gave them. When he was mentioning some of the figures, the ministers were looking as if this is the first time they were seeing the figures. Was there any consultation? Mr. Speaker, was there any consultation? Did they even know what was going to be in the budget? Mr. Speaker, ni a vote kahame ameke akenuchumomba ameke wake akenuchumomba abaha or 24-hour economy, 1 job 3 shifts yano yakwe gamashi teshi la nungwa yute ameke ingbe 24-hour economy yo nichumwe ingbe nichumwe yo almost a Jumanu wahi musi 24-hour economy and there we buy a 24-hour economy one can watch them so more 24-hour economy, 1 job 3 shifts in wahi who women is who MPs no mun to me come constituency
minority leader
I'm going to translate
your
to which
no I don't need a translation.
Oh,
I think your time is up for the comments.
Mr. Speaker, it's okay. Mr. Speaker, it's okay.
This is
after Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members.
You see your man. You see.
Honorable members.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Honorable members. These are initial comments. Definitely, there will be a motion for you to debate the budget, even before we go to the appropriation bill. So these are initial comments, and you don't need to belabor the point. After you demonstrated before everybody, don't come behind the scene to commend me for presiding very well. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, our people say that it is when the toad is dead that you see its full length. It is not lamentations. It is the continued unearthing of the bad economic management of the NPP that is being revealed every day. Mr. Speaker, it is obvious from the budget statement that the NPP government was the worst case study of bad economic management. The NPP was bad in government, but even worse in opposition. Worse in opposition. Indeed, I have heard Ghanaians ask if it is too late to replace them with the CPP as the official opposition. Mr. Speaker, Parliament was given a budget of 1.1 billion in 2025. In this year's budget, Parliament is being given a proposed figure of 1.6 billion. And you are aware. You are aware. Mr. Speaker, if ministers are quiet, it is because this budget was presented to ministers in cabinet and they approved it before it was brought to you. So they are aware. They are aware of all the figures. Everything in the budget was approved in cabinet where all these ministers were in attendance. Mr. Speaker, I am surprised that you didn't hear that the 24-hour economy program, there is a budgetary allocation of 150 million Ghana cedis. So I'm surprised that you didn't listen. Mr. Speaker, I am not surprised. I am not surprised that Ghanaians are now clamoring for you to be replaced by CPP as the official opposition. Mr. Speaker, we thank the Minister for Finance. His work clearly has been very commendable. This country is being turned around. Mr. Speaker, it is obvious inflation figures have drastically reduced to single digits. Mr. Speaker, we are paying our debts. Mr. Speaker, international rating agencies are giving us better ratings. Mr. Speaker, this budget and the expenditure of last year and the effort to stabilize the economy is what will create the jobs. The youth should be hopeful. What happened yesterday? What happened yesterday where those young 6 ladies died trying to find a job is a serious indictment of how the economy of this country was managed in the past 8 years. Mr. Speaker, I have confidence that this budget is going to create jobs, and the numbers, close to 800,000 jobs, close to 800,000 jobs will be created. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, by the time the Accra-Kumasi Expressway gets to Kumasi, by the time the Accra-Kumasi Expressway gets to Kumasi, I believe all the elephants will run away from Kumasi. Mr. Speaker,
Majority Leader,
let me conclude by thanking the Right Honourable Speaker for giving us an opportunity and to thank the Finance Minister for coming to this House to present the budget statement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, I invite you to the order paper addendum. Order paper addendum. Order paper addendum. Order paper addendum at the commencement of public business. Item 1, presentation of papers. The following papers to be presented by the Minister for Finance. Roman 1.
Contract agreement between the Government of the Republic of Ghana, represented by the Ministry of Finance, Ghana Revenue Authority, and Trudeau Investment Limited for the provision of public and digital inspection solution to modernize customs administration and enhance revenue mobilization.
Honourable members, the contract agreement has been duly presented. It is referred to the Finance Committee for consideration and report to the House. Roman number 2.
Request for the review of the investment policy and management of the Ghana Petroleum Funds in accordance with Section 31A of the Petroleum Revenue Management Act 2011, Act 815.
Honourable members, this paper has been duly presented and it is referred to the Committee on Economy and Development for consideration and report to the House. Roman number 3.
Master agreement between the Government of the Republic of Ghana, represented by the Ministry of Finance, Ghana Revenue Authority, and Tata Consultancy Services Limited for professional services.
Honorable members, the master agreement has been duly presented and it is referred to the Finance Committee for consideration and report to the House. Roman number 4.
Request for waiver of 20% withholding tax on the income of Tata Consultancy Services Limited as service provider and value-added tax amounting to the Ghana cedi equivalent of $10,460,000 United States dollars on imported services under the implementation of the Integrated Tax Administration System project.
Honorable members, the request has been duly presented. It is referred to the Finance Committee for consideration and report to the House. Honorable members, we have item 2. I want to know whether the instrument is ready. Presentation of instruments. It's also by the Minister for Finance. Honorable members, I manage the House. I manage the House. Please, let's complete the laying of the consequent papers from the presentation of the statement. Then I can listen to your leader. Please. Honorable members, presentation of instruments. Minister for Finance.
Public procurement, thresholds for approving authorities and procurement methods regulations, 2025.
Honorable members, this instrument has been duly presented and is referred to the Committee on Subsidiary Legislation for consideration and report to the House. Item 3, presentation and first reading of bills. 3A.
An act to repeal the COVID-19 Health Recovery Levy Act 2021, Act 1068, and to provide for related matters.
Honorable members, the bill is read the first time and referred to the Finance Committee for consideration and report to the House. 3B.
An act to revise and consolidate the law related to the imposition of the value-added tax and to provide for related matters.
Honorable members, the value-added tax is read the first time and referred to the Finance Committee for consideration and report to the House. 3C.
An act to regulate and the provision.
Well, you're still watching the live coverage of the 2026 Economic Policy and Budget presented by Dr. Cassiel Ato Forson. And just parliamentary rituals happening there on your screens, or back in the studio, we were on the tax and the VAT reforms. And before we went on, one of the questions that was on my mind would be, well, how would they bridge the gap between the IMF requirement and then all of the tax revenues that they're cutting down? Would it affect in any way?
Well, you know, on the face of it, you can raise those questions, but I'm sure that the minister would know why he's done that. I'm sure when he joins Evans, he will tell you more about this. I have seen let me just open the appendix, okay? Let me just get to the appendix and look at the right figures, and I'll be able to speak to them. Let me just get to the appendix. But while I do that, what I gather from the minister throughout the presentation is that the belief, based on all the policies they're rolling out, is that they'll be able to achieve this target. Now, first of all, there are people who are expected to charge VAT that sometimes may not even charge VAT. The whole reason why you've had the electronic VAT system to monitor all of these things is to ensure that those who are expected to charge it will charge it. The other argument also is the fact that nobody wants to pay taxes, to be very honest with you. Taxes are something that many people do not want to pay. So compliance is key and enforcement is key. The feeling is that sometimes when taxes are low, people then feel like paying, and the more they pay, the more money you get, okay? So if, for instance, someone makes, say, 200,000 turnover or sales in a year, or revenue in a year, and that person has to charge VAT, under the current circumstances, does it still make sense to let that person charge VAT when probably you can increase that to, say, 750,000? So that person gets more money, okay? Mm-hmm. If that person gets more money, if that person is registered with GRA, for instance, that person will be excited and actually paying you his income tax. And that also goes a long way in helping raise revenue, because we realize that a lot of people are not even known to tax authorities, and by extension, they do not pay income tax. So let me just quickly run by you the revenue projections for 2025. And once I do that, you'll have a better understanding of, okay, so according to, let me just check this, let me check 2026. Okay, I have it here, 2026. So tax revenue and grants, we're looking at a tax revenue of some 223 million. 223 million. We're looking at about 180 something million in 2025, but then we're looking at 223 million in 2026. Right. When it comes to taxes on income and property, that's about 115 billion. Billion actually, not million, billion, to be very honest.
But also, Winston, to the question that MFA was asking, when you are making taxes simple, you are encouraging compliance. And
exactly.
If you encourage compliance, the idea is that compliance will bring you volumes, more people will pay the tax, and then you make up. If it's discouraging people from being compliant, then you have less people. Although the tax is there, you have less people doing it. That's one idea of it. But the second idea of it, which for me I guess is what you look through the budget he's trying to do, you raise revenue. To deal with your revenue shortfalls, you also have to deal with expenditure. Mm-hmm. You can make savings from expenditure. If you're rationalizing tax, reducing the effective tax VAT impact now from 21.5%, it's come down now to 20%. It's simpler. You encourage more people to do it. That obviously, you've also taken away the COVID-19 levy. That obviously is going to take away some 3.7 billion off your revenue pile up. But if you manage expenditure properly, then you make savings there too. So that's where the fiscal discipline is, because you can make significant savings from expenditure rationalization to then make up for what you would have lost with the VAT rationalization, the abolition of, say, the COVID-19 levy. And so I was then...
Is that not too indirect?
Say that again?
Is that not too indirect for economy?
In fact, that is where the focus should be. And I've heard Professor Bokpeng say very loudly that one of the areas, in fact, the area that governments over the past have failed is fiscal discipline and expenditure discipline, because the savings there are huge. So you for example, go to the budget that was just read by the finance minister. A few things that he says he's going to do when it comes to expenditure. He says, for example, that they're going to put money into high-impact projects. So he's saying, for example, non-essential expenditure, foreign travels, workshops, vehicle procurements, and eliminating low-impact programs. He's going to curtail expenditure there. And then you have all the auditing that he says they've done at the port. You remember that? The huge, more than 30 billion, he says they've realized that people were under-declaring a lot of what they were doing, and the exports were being fraudulently handled, right, and causing us to bleed quite significantly. And they are going to put in place a structure to prevent the bleed. All that saves you money that you can put back to show up.
Let me just make this point. You know, you've seen people actually tell you, do you want VAT receipts or you don't want VAT receipts? Hmm? I'm sure you've encountered that.
Many times.
So when taxes are high, people will find ways and means of not paying. When the computation is complex too, the complex nature sometimes makes it difficult for people because not everybody has the expertise. Ordinarily, you would expect that people would understand these things. And that's why the minister in March was talking about the complex nature of it, which I felt was just an excuse not to remove the COVID-19 levy. Because the truth today is that the GRA has found ways. For instance, we've been talking about the National Sustained Tax Education Campaign. There's also the conversation about the modified taxation scheme, which some people, the modified taxation scheme says, oh, if you earn this amount of money, just download an app and simply pay this amount of money to GRA. It simplified it, and so all you have to do is to just pay, and then you're able to move on. So once it's simple, once it's not so high, people would pay, and the more they pay, the more revenue you generate. Right.
I will take all of us back to Parliament, where the Minority Leader is addressing the House.
Mr. Speaker, these are very serious matters. Mr. Speaker, my colleague, the Majority Leader, is here. In all fairness to me and my colleagues in leadership, Mr. Speaker, when these things happen, our back sometimes carries a certain impression as though we are in the know. There was no engagement. Mr. Speaker, we are dealing with a tax, a VAT exemption of $10 million being given to a company. This is the finance minister who is against tax exemption. I am saying that, Mr. Speaker, it is only fair. It is only fair that if the government side intends to do this, we discuss. Mr. Speaker, we had a pre-sitting. These important matters were never discussed. You look at, Mr. Speaker, a digitalization contract between GRA and Trudeau Investment Limited. Mr. Speaker, we don't know anything. It was a reason why I got up. Mr. Speaker, it is only fair. The practice is that the two leaders were engaged. But when you print other paper at the end, we don't know anything about it, then it is announced. Mr. Speaker, it is never the practice. I've been where he is before, and they know. Dr. Forson was here, and he knows that at every point, especially on addendum, he will never agree to surprises. He knows that. Finance Minister, be fair. Mr. Speaker, they shouldn't always create a certain impression that we are in this house to litigate on every matter. I feel very bad when they create that impression. It's not fair. It's not fair.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, the whole country is watching us. The whole world is watching us. Mr. Speaker, our rules are very clear. And 2 days ago, I had occasion to tell my colleague, the Minority Leader, that we must begin to honor and respect our rules. Mr. Speaker, our rules in Order 126 says that the chair shall be heard in silence, and the chair is the Speaker. And let me read the provisions. It says that the Speaker is responsible for the maintenance of order and observance of the rules of debate in the House. Whenever the Speaker addresses the House, any member standing shall immediately resume the member's seat, and the Speaker shall be heard in silence. Mr. Speaker, whilst we are addressing this House and facilitating the laying of papers in this House, our friends opposite did not only remain standing in their feet, but were singing, obstructing, disrespecting you, disrespecting the chair, disrespecting the mace, and disrespecting the people of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, you may choose to tolerate that, but this side of the House will not tolerate that. We will not tolerate that. Mr. Speaker, I, based on Order 33.2, I want to raise a question of contempt and abuse of privilege. Mr. Speaker, we must begin to enforce our rules. We must begin to enforce our rules. Mr. Speaker, this side of the House, we can match you 2 by 1, 2 by 1, 2 by 1. And after we have matched you 2 to 1, 2 to 1, we will still have excess. We will still have excess. We still have excess of over 30 something. Mr. Speaker, I demand that the minority leader now apologizes to your good self for this gross misconduct and misbehavior. Mr. Speaker, if he does not, I will raise a question of contempt of Parliament and abuse of privilege and ask you to rule on it now. I am giving you an opportunity. I am giving you an opportunity. Mr. Speaker, this house will not be abused by Honorable Afenyomakin. He's too small. He's too small to abuse this mace. He's too small to disrespect the Speaker whilst all of us sit and watch you. So I am raising a question of contempt of Parliament and breach of privilege, and I'm asking you to rule on that matter. Refer all of them to the Privileges Committee. We have their identities, we recorded it, and Mr. Speaker, we will have the Privileges Committee go into this. Mr. Speaker, as the majority leader and leader of this House, and as the Speaker, we owe it a duty to this country to make sure that the institution of Parliament, its image, its integrity, its reputation is maintained. We will be reneging on our responsibility if we allow behavior like what we have seen today to persist. We have come to the end of it. Mr. Speaker, if they can misconduct themselves, small as they are, if we don't take action, we should forever remain silent when this side of the House also decides to take action against them. So, Mr. Speaker, I am raising breach of privilege pursuant to Order 31O of the Standing Orders, which says any act or omission which affronts the dignity or authority of Parliament, or which tends either directly or indirectly to bring the name of Parliament into disrepute. So, Speaker, what they have done, persistently violating our standing orders, standing whilst you are addressing the House, singing disrespectfully, whilst we're addressing the House, clearly falls within the prohibitions of Order 31-0. Acts affronting the dignity or authority of Parliament. We cannot allow a final marking and the Nkitikiti minority to destroy the image of this House. I don't have a problem. I know they have destroyed the image of their party already.
That's right. That's right.
And I earlier indicated that I know Ghanaians who are asking if it is not too late, they want to replace the MPP opposition with the CPP as the official opposition. But they have gone too far, Mr. Speaker. And I raised a question of contempt and abuse of privilege, and I invite you to give a ruling on that matter, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, I think we've transacted two very important matters today. We managed to get the approval of the House of the President's nominee to the position of Chief Justice of this country. We have also got the Minister for Finance to present the budget statement and economic policy for the 2026 financial year. These are two very important events that have occurred, and I think that we have done well. As to the issue that the minority leader has raised, the effect being that the leaders of the House, having consulted on some items, based on the lack of their consultation, those items should not be brought to the House and be given to the House for them to consider the government business in that respect. I find that very unfortunate because no decision is taken today. It's just business that is being presented to the House. And the matter, as I've stated earlier, has been referred to the relevant committees to consider and report to the House. The House will now have the opportunity to debate, to deliberate, to do what they want with the business that has been referred. So the fact that the two of you have not been able to consult each other should not prevent the Speaker from admitting the business to be presented to the House for consideration. Not at all. It's a matter that you, the leaders, could discuss later on. But we have business to do. As part of my duty as a Speaker is to protect the minority. It's also a duty of the Speaker to make sure that government business is not obstructed. I did that from 2021 to 2024, when those to my left were to my right. I'm doing the same now. Please. We have tolerated each other for some time now. I did indicate that I'm not going to use the gavel. I'll be using the hammer. But please, I learned a lot of lessons from the holy books, both the Holy Bible and the Holy Quran. And there was good reason why the prodigal son was giving a feast. And so, honorable members, let's don't end the day on a bad note. Let's end the day on a good note. At the appropriate time, the Speaker will take the necessary action to bring real discipline and order to this House. Please, let's leave it here and complete the other business that are before us. I don't want us to go beyond this. We still have 2 more important businesses I want us to carry on. I want the House to work together as we've been doing. These are important matters, particularly the consideration of the budget and economic policy of the government. I want us to consider what happened yesterday. The country is not in a joyful mood. I expect that we should understand the situation and try as much as possible to debate with cool heads. I expect that you should all be able to tolerate each other. It's not that what you do doesn't hurt me. It does, many a times, because you all accept that I'm the father of the house. And sometimes you get up and say, with the greatest respect, then you are wondering what kind of respect that is. Those of us who were hunters know that anytime the monkey wants to bite you, it will clean the place first before biting. So when you get up and say with the greatest respect, I know you are cleaning the place, but you are going to bite. And many of you are not hunters, so you don't understand these things. Me, coming from Saito, I've learned a lot. Those of you who went to something international, that's where you are now. You are not a Ghanaian, you are not a European, you are not an American. We don't know who you are. This is what Ghana is faced with. No identity, no character, nothing. It's just a name that they are human beings. So how for do? I'll leave it at that. Honorable members, I will want to plead with the majority leader not to insist on moving that motion. Let us continue to tolerate each other and work together. At the appropriate time, the rules will be applied. And I assure you, it's not on one side, it will be on both sides. Please. I know what I'm doing. And when the hammer falls, you see the applaud from the good people of Ghana. I assure you, I'll have the full support, including your parties. So please, let's go on. We have the 3rd reading of the long-standing bill before the House, and it's just the 3rd reading. That bill has been here for months, and the minister has been present since morning just because of this bill and then the budget. And so it's not the culture of the House to ignore such things. But I'll listen to you, Minority Chief Whip, before I... Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I haven't heard you congratulate and discharge the Minister for Finance so that he can go back to his seat as a member of Parliament.
You are right. You are right. Let me, on behalf of the House, thank you, the Minister for Finance, for coming to the House and on behalf of His Excellency the President, present the budget statement and economic policy for the 2026 financial year. We are extremely grateful, and I know that you enjoyed the music. You didn't take it otherwise than people trying to at least refresh themselves after sitting for many, many hours. That is how I read it, and I think that is understandable. It's only we have to get the leaders to modulate some of the orchestra and the singing bands so that we can do business in harmony. So, Minister, we are extremely grateful, and you are discharged. Yes, Honorable Minority Chief Whip.
Speaker, I am exceedingly grateful. And Speaker, I'm happy you have called the very business we were all anticipating to be called. Speaker, let me take this opportunity to make pleadings to the Majority Leader. And if he recalls, at conclave, he had made the point, because we even suggested that we were at third reading, and he had made the point, no, we should just come and read the budget and call the day off. Now it has become necessary that we take this very item. When we walk into the chamber, I kept drawing the attention of the front bench on the other side that this is just the third reading. Let's take it. So the point I'm emphasizing on is we should learn to reach out. We should just learn to reach out. Majority Leader, today, for instance, Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry if I know we are all fatigued. We had to stage a compromise for the collective interest of this House. When Honorable Habib had to withdraw his motion, and Majority Leader, I heard you when you reached out to us. Yeah, to take it some other day. When you reached out to us, we understood, and we yielded to your call. You see, so it's a give and take. It's a give and take. When the leader, our leader, was on his feet, it was only drawing our attention to the fact that if we had mentioned to him that these businesses were supposed to be laid, we would not be opposed to it. But it's just a show of respect and magnanimity so that we understand that this House, regardless of the numbers, is a two-sided House. I am pained by the way we are prosecuting business. You cannot tell me to sit down. If you want to speak, catch the eye of the speaker. What do you mean? You can't tell me to sit down. What do you mean? No, you cannot do that. You should catch the eye of the speaker.
Please.
Speaker,
address me.
You should. I am in leadership.
I'm locating them. I'll handle them. Please. Yes, please address me.
Speaker, so I am simply saying that, Majority Leader, we respect you. Many occasions we defer to you. Ever since I came to this House, I have never disrespected you. But sometimes the way you go about carrying your business, you don't carry the entire house along. Anytime you need us to compromise, when you reach out to us, we often yield to you. So we want to plead with you. Majority Leader, Mr. Majority Leader, we want to plead with you. We will not come to this house to obstruct government business. No, we will not. So just reach out to us, just to talk to us. We are human as you are. We know you have a business to prosecute. And I have been a majority chief way before. This is just the beginning of a cycle. We are now going to go for, you will late, don't worry. We are now going to take about 50 motions. You cannot have all your numbers all the days. Well, you'll be there and be saying this. There will be times that you will need us to compromise. Speak, you can find out from your majority leader. We work together. Let's work together. Mr. Speaker, our colleagues should know that we need to work together. Nobody is perfect here. Sometimes I am paying the way we are being treated. We are in the minority, so what? We can make very good suggestions for the prosecution of government business.
Honorable Minority Chief Whip, I think enough is enough. I know that the leaders on daily basis have been cooperating, because on daily basis I hold meetings with you people at the lobby, and I participate in your trade-offs, trying to accommodate each other. And so when on the floor, sometimes we disagree. I think it's better for you to do what you are doing on the floor outside the floor. Particularly when we are in the lobby in conclave, you can raise these things. But don't let the public have a perception that you don't cooperate with each other. Because I can give copious evidence, supported by documentary evidence, as to how you have cooperated with each other up to date. I'm a living witness, so please, sometimes, whether for some other reasons you want to achieve some other goals, I don't know. That's why sometimes I'm also compelled to say it's a surprise to me. So please, let's leave it at that, Majority Leader. And then outside the glare of the public, we can use the usual channels of communication I will refer to and settle some of these differences. Please, let's continue with the business. Yes, Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, definitely this House revolves around dialogue and cooperation. And I know that everybody in this country who has observed me in the last 8 months that I've sat here will confirm that I'm one of the most accommodating persons in this chamber. Everybody will confirm that. Mr. Speaker, the narrative that he seeks to put out there is that I'm a leader who doesn't carry the minority along. That is a narrative that I find quite unfair to put out there. If I did anything today against you, it is the way you conducted yourself in relation to the Speaker. No, on the issue of singing, all of us sang, both sides. I'm not raising issues about singing. I said, I'm not raising issues about singing. The issue that I raised and asked the Speaker to rule on an issue of contempt and breach of privilege is your conduct here. It's not about engagement on the business of the House. When you say you don't have notice, you will only be able to make a case that you don't have notice if the order paper does not capture the item. Once the order paper captures the item, you have notice of the item. Mr. Speaker, he was the majority leader and leader of government business. He saw to the presentation of several budget statements. And you know that in every budget statement, when the Minister of Finance makes reference to bills, to regulations, to instruments, to amendments, to contracts, to repeals, immediately he finishes, we usually lay those ones. And we take them on a certificate of urgency. You know that. You've been in this house. You know. So why are you behaving as if this is the first time this is happening? When they are laid, then when the Speaker refers it to committee, at the committee level, you will engage. That's how engagement takes place. But when bills, instruments, regulations, contracts, and etc., which were referred to in the policy statement of the finance minister, then the clerks, on their own, knowing that this is the procedure, go and print an order paper addendum and capture all those instruments. And Speaker, consistent with our practice, is now seeking to have us lay those instruments. And you rise up, and he gives you indications that let me finish laying, I will recognize you. And you persist and clearly violate our rules. On a day when you know the whole world is focusing on us in this chamber, the sanctity of the image of this chamber. Mr. Speaker, as you indicated, I will not belabor the point. I will not belabor the point. We can take the third reading of the scholarship bill and we'll call it a day. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, may we take the item on the Ghana Scholarships Authority Bill 2025, and that I think is item 13 on the order paper. Item 13. Minister for Education. Move the motion for the third reading.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the Ghana Scholarship Authority Bill 2025 be now read the third time. I beg to move.
Motion moved. Any seconder?
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Motion moved and seconded is for the consideration of the House. Honorable members, I put the question. And the question is that those in favor of the motion just moved by the Minister of Education, say aye. Aye. Those against, say no. Honorable members, the scholarship I've just been reminded that I have not declared the results. It means that the fatigue has set in. Honorable members, the ayes have it.
An act to establish the Ghana Scholarship Authority to regulate the administration and award of government scholarships in a transparent and equitable manner and for related matters.
Honorable members, the Ghana Scholarships Authority Bill 2025 duly read the third time and passed. You all heard the minister. He was so overwhelmed that he was overjoyed because he has struggled all these days to get this bill through. And so he didn't even know how to move the third reading. So he preceded it with a good laugh. Minister, thank you for the patience and all the tolerance. Please, I think that we need to do a few things. I have tried, and I want to appeal to leadership. I have tried to get us, in spite of our differences, to work together. I have organized a number of retreats for leaders, a number of opportunities, and leaders have always failed to turn up. I'm compelled to say this because those who are not aware think that I'm not making the effort. It's because we are different that we are sitting to the left and to the right. If we're not different, we'll be together at one place. And the arrangement of this chamber would have been different. That difference must be recognized and accepted. That is how we work together. That's how we were created. That's why you have parties. And that's why Ghanaians voted for you the way they voted. So please, let's accept each other and work together. You only do that when you are outside the floor. But when you come here, something else happens to you. That's why I was calling the pastors and the apostles to come here and then pray and bless this chamber. Maybe there's something inside here that I don't know. They should come and exorcise the evil spirit in the chamber. Because I deal with you people outside the chamber. And your attitude is very different. But when you are inside here, and something else, they say Beshi. Please, we can do better than this. I know your capacity, I know who you are, I know what you've been doing, but don't give this impression, because it will not be my nature to be applying the hammer, but if that is the last resort, so be it. And I told you, sooner than later, it will fall on hairs. I won't split your hairs, but you may not recover. Please, let's end it here, unless there's something urgent, and take it.
So, Speaker,
Yes,
I think
please.
we have sat beyond 5 hours, so we're in your hands.
Well, honorable members, I will then proceed to adjourn the sitting to tomorrow. And the sitting is adjourned till 2 p.m. tomorrow. Tomorrow is Friday, yes. No indication of a different timing. You want to sit earlier? Yes, please. Yes.
My friends opposite are proposing that we do 12 noon.
12 noon. Honorable members, sitting is adjourned till tomorrow at 12 noon. Sitting accordingly adjourned.